On this episode, we talk about small trucks, Chevy's new cars, and the Audi A4. Next on Talking Cars. Hi everybody, and welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
We got a question from a viewer. We're going to jump right into it. Christopher Perez asks, give a review summary of the small pickup truck market. I've been waiting for you guys to post your score for the 2016 Toyota Tacoma. Thing is, there's about 3 small trucks that you can buy right now. You can buy a Tacoma, you can buy a Colorado or a Canyon, which are the same thing, and you can buy a Nissan Frontier, which most people forget about. But we recently tested the redesigned Tacoma.
Yeah, redesigned, and I'm glad you used that sign for quotation marks because it's supposedly redesigned, but in reality, it's very much the old thing. I mean, it's improved in some ways, but it feels like such an old school, rough and tumble kind of a truck that, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to use a microscope to know that it's redesigned.
I mean, is that really a problem for the people who are going to buy Tacomas?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, here's the thing. When it comes to a small pickup truck, you take Tacoma, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is known for something that's reliable. Right? I mean, people are buying it not because it's the lap of luxury. They're not buying it because
sports car-like handling.
Exactly right. They're buying it because it's something they can rely on, something that's going to, get the high miles on there and not have any problems with it. So in a way, I think Toyota recognizes that, and they're not going to make big changes on it. They don't want to change the equation, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to change the formula of what this vehicle is. And when Toyota,
it's not for nothing. It has a cult following.
Right.
Oh, no,
well, absolutely.
It's bigger than a Colt. I mean, a lot of people buy these things.
I mean, it's bulletproof reliability, as Jake said.
The resale's insane.
The resale is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is always in demand. You can always sell it. Going off-road, I mean, it's a champ off-road.
Yeah, it's really good off-road.
So why mess with it if it's serving the customers? And Toyota is no stranger of these quote unquote redesigns, right? I mean, a lot of the vehicles that when Toyota redoes the vehicles, they don't make a whole lot of changes, and they're doing it for a reason because they got proven technology, they got proven parts that are not having problems. Why introduce something that might?
And it's a conservative company.
Well, it's also proven that they can sell it. I mean, the Tacoma wasn't really dropping off in sales that much, so why change something that you can sell plenty of? You add a GoPro mount inside. Supposedly you redesigned the frame, which hopefully will stop the frame rust problems that they've been having. You put in a 3.5 liter V6 that feels a little less powerful than the 4 liter, but is more efficient, and you call it a day.
Yeah, actually it gets pretty good gas mileage, 19 mpg overall. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's good for a truck.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's good off-road. It gets decent fuel economy for a truck. It's reliable.
That's it. That's all.
That's it. Okay. How about the bad points?
Well, the bad points is that it rides like a pogo stick, and it handles like a pig. And
those are technical terms. I think that's jargon. We should probably break it down.
That's
what the
Handling Dynamics 301 was how to you compare a pig, elephant-like platypus.
Right.
Platypus, you don't want a platypus.
No, you don't want any of that.
No.
And equal opportunity there, but
they've done a good job with road noise.
There's so much rubber in the thing that road noise is okay, but wind noise, engine noise.
Well, I mean, the wind noise and the engine noise are getting taken care of.
So look, I mean, all this is true. So if you want something that's a workhorse that's going to be reliable, hey, you know what? That might be the right truck for you. If you want something that is your everyday car, and every once in a while I might want to carry something, or I like a truck because I like the style of it, it's kind of a penalty box.
Yeah. Thing is, though, there's 2 ways to go with this. One is it shouldn't be a penalty box because it's $34,000. And we tested in SR5. We didn't really load this thing up. We just a 4-door SR5 4-wheel drive.
We didn't go crazy.
And you can get leather, and you can get blind spot monitoring, and it's perfume on a pig. I mean, it's still rough and tumble.
Back with the pig.
I can't get off the animal analogies. Forgive me. But the thing is you don't really have a lot of choices if you want something civilized here. I mean, you can go with a Colorado or a Canyon. and it is more civilized.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the question. In that market, is that what people are looking for? They're looking for civilized. I mean, look, I don't want to put the W1 there. I mean, the Wrangler, okay? I mean, the Wrangler is not civilized.
You're coming out of left field.
I'm
Okay.
way out of left field here, but I mean, follow me here because I'll get to a point eventually. But I mean, the Jeep Wrangler is not a civilized vehicle. It is a penalty box for someone who just wants something to commute around.
It has
The
a
people
cult
love it.
following.
It has a cult following in it.
It steers like a pig or platypus.
I mean, to be honest,
Sure.
if they civilize the Wrangler tomorrow,
they'd lose half their sales.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
not a cheap vehicle either.
No, it's not.
So I'm not
You're right.
convinced it is the right thing for them to do to go. And look, if there is somebody who wants a pickup truck from a practicality standpoint, and they want something that's civilized, there's a fourth vehicle coming out on the market.
Yeah, there'll be the Honda Ridgeline.
Right. And that may be it. And I would be surprised, well, we'll see, but I would be very surprised if they're going to enjoy the numbers that this workhorse gets.
No, I think you're right. You know, when you have things, the Colorado is doing, and Canyon are doing really well.
They're selling everyone they can
They're
make.
selling everyone they can make, which a lot of people, maybe even us, didn't think they'd be able to do. I mean, there is a market for it. Tacoma's selling more than 100,000 trucks a year too. I think Ridgeline will be lucky if they see 50. I think you're right. I believe that's all they saw in one of their better years with the original Ridgeline. But let's look at Colorado and Canyon. They're more civilized than the
They
Tacoma.
are. They're more responsive handlers.
They have
and
steering.
They have, right, I mean, they can...
The steering
turn.
is like a shrew or some other marsupial, perhaps.
Well, it's, the truck is decent to drive. It's pretty quiet. The interior can get pretty, a lot nicer than Tacoma. The infotainment system is up to date, works well. They have a diesel option.
Yeah.
That's something worth mentioning.
Yeah, which we own. We now own a Colorado diesel.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll get the fuel economy on that pretty soon as well. So stay tuned there.
Yeah, I mean, the Colorado, in my mind, had three problems. One is it's unreliable. In its first year, it was really quite bad, so that goes to the Tacoma. Two, the seats are uncomfortable. The seats are just really not good in that truck, and it's kind of surprising. The third is that the throttle response with the 3.6 liter V6 wasn't there. You'd step into it, and it was just lethargic.
Yeah, that 3.6 is kind of short on low-end torque, and it's not really very suitable for a truck duty.
The diesel, on the other hand, takes care of that third problem.
Oh, it sure does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy going to drive. And
Yeah, it's much more suitable for that kind of vehicle, and makes it a lot more responsive and probably fuel efficient. We'll see.
And I mean, you get a little bit of the clatter, but I think people who buy a diesel in a truck want that. You don't want it.
Yeah, I don't think it's
out.
a deterrent at all that a truck sounds like a truck. I don't think that's a problem.
Suits the character.
It does. You know, and what's interesting is, you look at GM, and GM, we talk about civilized vehicles or vehicles with different style or whatever it is. I mean, I think, GM doesn't really know how to make a vehicle anymore that's underdeveloped. I mean, it seems like everything that they're doing, everything that they're making is quite civilized. I mean, I think maybe they give up something with that, the flashy styling that you might get on a Chrysler or something like that. But I mean, they are making cars that handle well and drive well and have the quietness. And
No, you're right. I'm going to follow you down this divergence a bit. I mean, we have a Chevy Spark. Chevy's launched a lot of cars recently. We have a Chevy Spark, which the first generation Spark was, or actually, we have first generation Spark was not a great car.
No, it was basically a dressed-up Daewoo that wasn't even supposed to come to the U.S. market. Only came here during the last 2 years of its product cycle.
Yeah.
So it was
It had
beyond penalty box.
handling of a stork. I mean, it just really didn't really want to be steered around much. The new
It was noisy. It was slow. It was a lot more than that. Was just that was the least of its
handling was
problems.
the least of its problems. But the new Spark is surprisingly, it's a real car.
Yeah, it's a real car. I mean, it's a little stiff, but it's much more civilized, much more responsive, much better equipped. But it calls into question, you know what? Why won't you buy the Scion IA for that price, which is also a pretty decent subcompact?
Sure, for $16,000 you can do that. But another new Chevy car that we just took delivery of is a Chevy Cruze. And that is a much nicer car than what well, I mean, it's different than the one it replaces. It weighs a couple 100 pounds less.
Roomier.
Well, it's 3 inches longer, and almost all that went into the back seat. It's quiet, like the old car was. It rides pretty well. It's hard to tell it apart from a Civic or an Elantra. I mean, all of them kind of look the same.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
But again, GM is launching cars without major big problems in design. You know, they are these fully realized products.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything they set their mind to, they seem to perform pretty well lately on. Their only issue is choosing what they're doing. I mean, to the Spark, do you really need 2 subcompacts in this market? And they don't have a small SUV.
Spark and a Sonic, yeah.
Right. They don't have a small SUV, which is like the heart of all the markets.
You're right.
Technically, the Spark is a mini car and the Sonic is a
They're
subcompact,
both-
but
they're
yeah,
both
who cares about
16
that?
and change,
Exactly.
right?
They're the same money when you,
Yeah.
they're the same money when you look at them at the dealership. Something though, going back to trucks, something that is an impediment in this to buying one of these trucks is the price. I mean, I think our diesel Colorado is pushing
That's
$38,000.
$40,000.
$40,000, and
Yeah,
again, we didn't go to town with that.
Right.
So when you spend $40,000, do people want a full-size truck or a compact truck or?
Yeah, I mean, look, more for most people, more is better, right? I mean, for the similar amount of money, you could get yourself a bigger truck. It's not about just saying, look, I got a big truck, I got more for my money, but it's also the development of those vehicles is really much more. I mean, in terms of ride and handling, in terms of what you get, in terms of the functionality, you get a lot more with those full-size trucks.
I think there's something to be said for a compact pickup truck because they're much easier to park, much easier to maneuver in tight spaces, much easier to see out of because you're a little lower. And I think that's, for some people, maybe the minority of people, that has value.
I agree with that, but I just feel like they should be $25,000. I don't feel like you should be spending $35,000, 35 grand for.
Yeah, I mean,
compact
you
pickup
can go
truck.
less equipment, you can go without four-wheel drive and without the big engine and get there. But yeah, I mean, that's,
You could also-
the pricing situation there is an overlap here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also do that with a full-size truck. So you could kind of,
Sure, I can buy with incentives. I can buy a full-size truck with a V6 for $21,000.
Right.
Yeah.
no, it's about the size. And look, but what the truth is that the tiny small trucks are gone. Okay, I mean, it used to be was the Mazda B2000, and you'd have these little, almost car-sized trucks that gave you functionality that were small. But I mean, even these trucks that were, I mean, the Colorado, I mean,
It's not a small car.
If you want to parallel park that thing, the thing is long.
I'm surprised your parents never had a Volkswagen Rabbit pickup truck. It really sounds like something you guys would have.
We had the microbus. That was
That's a pickup. That's a
that
utility
had a lot of
vehicle.
utility,
There
you know.
go.
And actually, what's interesting is that, you know, if you actually need these vehicles for work to carry stuff, there are these, you know, European-style front-wheel drive vehicles that are now on the market that
Or you can get a Ram ProMaster van.
Right, exactly. I mean, these are vehicles that can go carry your stuff, you know, if you need a fleet of trucks, and maybe pickup truck isn't the answer for everybody.
I don't know. If I have 40,000, more than 40 grand to buy, I'm going to buy probably something like the car parked behind us, the Audi A4.
A lot of people are cross-shopping.
That's right.
Yeah,
If you have
that's-
to home mulch, you
Exactly.
go with the
It's
Audi.
terrible
That's what
in our mulch-
Quattro. That's what
on our
Quattro
mulch
does,
area.
though. You
Yeah,
can,
I didn't know it had an open bed there.
Well, let's say you want something a little more civilized than a truck. As we said in the last show, we got our Audi A4 test car. It's
Yeah.
very impressive,
It's
isn't
very nice, yeah. I mean, the ride is way improved. The controls, there's so much capability into that infotainment system, and once you get the hang of it, it's very logical. And I mean, it's a nice handling car. It's very quiet. The 7-speed automatic manual, I wouldn't be able to tell you that it's a dual clutch type transmission. And it behaves pretty much like a normal automatic, which is a good thing.
it? Your thoughts?
You know, I mean, we've talked forever about the kind of hole in this market and the compact luxury market. You know, I mean, it looks like they're filling it pretty nicely, right? I mean, Audi's got a reputation for reliability. And again, that's what our data is showing. You know,
Right.
going back year after year, they're having good reliability from their vehicles. it certainly feels solid. I mean,
Oh,
you
very
get in
much
this
so.
thing and it feels like it's, carved out of one piece, all of those.
All the cliches.
yeah.
all the
cliches,
cliches, right?
yeah.
All the cliches belong to
plenty of
Audi.
them,
I
yeah.
mean, it feels solid. And yeah, technology, it's got all the technology, right? And it's actually not, it's
Not
not
overwhelming.
technology for technology's sake. I mean, it's not overwhelming. You could work it out.
I
There is a
mean,
learning curve.
It's overwhelming when you first get in it and you realize everything that you have here. It's like being dropped into missile command. It's like, there's a lot to do, but once you figure out your tricks into the system and
Right.
the one of 5 ways that I'm going to do it, well, I can do it with a touchpad, I can do it with a controller knob, I can do it with the steering wheel controls. Once you figure out your method of choice,
But you have so much more capability.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going from a flip phone to a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, still there's other stuff, but look at all this other cool stuff.
Right.
And it's like if you don't get overwhelmed by that right away, and you're like, oh, look, I can see the Earth, and I can see my house, and you start spinning it and pressing the kids and whatever like that. You gotta, take that, one day at a time. But the car drives nice. It does the right stuff. It should be reliable from Audi, and boy, it's one of these vehicles that's like, yeah, it's a lot of money for a small car.
Yeah, I don't
It is.
understand how it is $48,000.
It's
I mean,
a lot
10
of
years
money.
ago, an Audi A4 was $36,000.
but I think
what happened here?
I think what's happened in that time is Audi's realized it can play with Mercedes-Benz and BMW.
Totally.
I think it's grown in self-esteem, and that self-esteem is reflected in the sticker price. I mean, we saw the same thing.
Probably.
We saw the same thing with the Q7.
Yeah.
That our Audi Q7 is $68,000,
Yeah.
which is a few grand less than an X5, but not much less.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of like Acura, for instance, right? And so they can't really compete dollar for dollar with the Mercedes-Benz and the BMW.
Right. I mean, a TLX is topping out around 42, 43.
Yeah, but it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of like an Accord. And you look what Lexus has done. They have become their own thing, and they can command that dollar. And I think this is a serious competitor to a BMW and Mercedes-Benz, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, nothing to be ashamed of at all. Okay, we've got 2 reader questions. One from a Maserati fan. Gabe,
We have a lot of those.
That's right. They're just filling the YouTube comments section. Gabe, I'm with you. I too have a soft spot for Italian cars. Hey, Jake, you made me think I made a poor value decision purchasing my Gran Turismo.
When are we having an espresso?
Not. I love my car. Not to worry, I value the insight from talking cars with consumers and will remain a loyal subscriber. Ciao. Yeah, we've driven a Maserati Gran Turismo, haven't we?
Yeah, we have a model page on our site about Gran Turismo.
I'm very happy that he enjoys his car.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone who could argue that is a good value.
No.
No, it's not a
that's
good value,
fine.
but
It's not
if
a
you
good
can
value.
afford it and you can, if
it
makes you happy and excited, and
be it.
you revel in the sound of it, and why not?
Yeah, but it's not a good value. I mean, to me, Maserati is like the perfect, I've said this before, it's like the perfect name for a car. I drive a Maserati. I mean, it just sounds
great.
good. It sounds good. A Jaguar F-Type is like $60,000 less and probably a better car.
really nice.
And is really
So,
unique.
Totally different, though, in terms of
yeah.
character.
Look, again, it goes back to the Wrangler. It goes back to a lot of things. I mean, look at Harley Davidson. Okay, Harley Davidson. People love their Harleys. We do a reliability survey. Turns out they're not very reliable. We've driven Harley Davidsons. They're not really the smoothest. I mean, the transmission isn't very smooth. I mean, they're not the best technology. It's all true. There's
Owner
nothing wrong with talking
satisfaction,
about it.
sky high.
But they're
Right.
happy with it, and that's really ultimately what matters.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is a Mustang or a Camaro drives better than this Gran Turismo. And it just doesn't have anything near the
Yeah.
appeal. And
Well, it's a different
that's-
kind of, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of appeal. Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of appeal, Lexus Fan 100 is just wondering, what cars do you guys personally own and drive? Thanks. Well,
I guess he's hoping we have Lexuses.
I hope, or Maseratis. Yeah, we get this question every now and then. It's worth answering every now
It's one of
and
the
then.
dangers of the profession.
The rote answer is I drive a different car every night because we have a test fleet of cars and it is my job requirement to drive different cars every night. But we do own cars for our family.
Yeah, and that's not what he's asking here.
Exactly.
What do we have in the garage? What does our family have?
What is
It's the-
what on the title? What do we have our name on the title?
My family car is a BMW X3.
And you got
Yeah.
one of the last ones with the inline six, right?
Yes, that was one of the reasons for buying it. Give me that non-turbo inline six. Yeah, it's a 2011 X3, and it works great.
Had to have a backup camera to it, but other than that, you're
Yeah, I had to add that because one day my wife came in and said, you know what, I almost like ran into a shopping cart, and if that were a kid, that's not cool. And
Right.
And when my son started driving, said, you know what, you should have a rear camera.
sure.
Yeah.
No, makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, your wife's car is something that really is not an enthusiast-friendly car.
No, because my wife is not a car enthusiast in the least.
Right, so why
Um,
bother?
Why bother? Which upsets my kids a lot, but that's a
Aw.
whole other story. So yeah, we have a 2006 red Toyota Prius.
Ooh, racing.
It has it's got snow tires on right now, and she's got about 120,000 miles on it, and never had any problems at all, including the original brakes on the car, which
Wow.
is, I guess, she hasn't found the pedal yet or something. But yeah, she loves it. My kids right now are trying to get her to put a deposit down on a Tesla Model 3
Oh,
because they figured that's a good environmental car, which they're more excited about. But we'll see. We actually have two Toyotas in the garage. I still have my Toyota MR2. That's a race car, so that doesn't really get driven on the streets too much.
right, not a family car.
Not a family car. It's got one seat and a cage in it. But yeah, first generation MR2. But that's it.
No, I think your wife, I mean, to different levels, certainly. I think your wife and my wife don't want to spend money on cars because we own, as I've said many, many times before in this podcast.
What was it? Some kind of Ford or something?
Yeah,
What was
I
it?
think so. Maserati?
Yes. Yes.
No, we
Mercedes?
own. Yeah, well, it is. It's a
Little
Mercedes
bit,
underneath.
yeah.
It's a Mercedes underneath. We own a 2011 Dodge Durango that we use for towing our Airstream trailer, and I get wanderlust. You know, we have that Audi Q7, and when I bought that car, I equipped it with the color combination I wanted, in case if the gray with the brown.
There's always an
leather.
ulterior motive.
There's always an ulterior motive. I did the same with the Mercedes GLC. These very nice cars. She's like, no, you know what? The Durango's still running. It's paid for. It's got 62,000 miles on it. It runs fine.
Well,
We're happy
it
with
just shows about value.
Yeah.
You know, again, we bought, like, 10 years ago, we got this Prius for 25 grand, and it's paid for, right?
Right.
I mean, it's
Yep.
continuing to rack up the miles and no problems. It doesn't pay to buy a new car.
No, and that's it. And especially when it does everything you want it to do, when
Right.
when your spouse is happy with it and it's paid for, and if it's reliable, why?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you get older cars, there's issues, but I'm going through the Prius, and it's like we've got stability control on it. She's got a rear view camera on it. She's got Bluetooth on it. So I mean, it's got a lot of the technology. It would
Right,
be
I mean-
nice to have automatic braking. It would be nice to have forward collision warning. Is it worth plunking down 25 grand right now? Maybe
Yeah,
we'll wait a few years.
It's debatable. I mean, my Durango has forward collision warning. It has blind spot monitoring. It doesn't have automatic braking. To get those things and a few more gears in the transmission from the 5-speed to the 8-speed would cost me another $25,000. That's a whole other car.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just not worth it right now. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Talking Cars. As always, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.